Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I am so sorry I took a day off yesterday. I was feeling under the weather. But today we have a special guest, and I'm very excited to announce them. But before we do that, there's going to be an ad that plays. So let the ad play, and then I could bring over the guest. Let's go. So 3 minutes. We will be meeting our special guests. So make sure you have your questions ready. And if you don't, it's okay. This will be recorded and you get to watch it after the fact. So I'm very excited. All right, the ad's gonna start in 1 minute and 56 seconds. So if you don't have a sub, sorry. But on top of that, I'm really excited to have all of you here. Also, shout out to almost 1,000 members on the Discord, which is really amazing. So, yeah. Hi, Justina. You're the first one here. Welcome, welcome. Davey, what's up, Davey? How you doing? I'm so excited about this guest, by the way. And even though things don't look like the previous interviews, don't worry. I'm gonna make sure it's gonna be like a blast. Oh. Let me know when the ad's over. How you doing? This has been shared on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So we'll see who comes. In that case, we have a few minutes until this ad starts and then we could begin. You're at work. Well, you could listen in and listen to the beautiful voice of moi and then hear all the amazing answers and questions from our guest. So I'm very excited about that. But yes, his name is Mark Hildreth, a Canadian voice actor. I'm so excited. I had the pleasure to meet him in person. But I'm going to keep my mouth shut and wait until he introduces himself. Hi, Crispy Bones. How are you? Everyone's just coming in slowly. Okay, you know what? I'm going to snooze this ad and we're going to bring over our guests in 3, 2, 1. Hello, hello, hello. Testing. Okay.
Oh, are you talking to me?
Yes. I'm bringing you in.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Well, let's see. They see you. Oh, there you are. I see you and they see you. Perfect. Yes.
Nice.
Well, hello. It's such a pleasure to have you here. I gave them a little intro of who you are, but maybe you could give yourself a better intro because I'm not you, obviously.
Sure. Yeah. I'm Mark Hildreth. I am, as you said, I'm a Canadian actor. I was born and raised in Canada. I'm the voice of Hiro Yui in Gundam and Terry Bogard in Fatal Fury, and I'm in Dragon Ball Z, and I've been very fortunate to have a wonderful career, including a lot of different animation and anime jobs that I'm sure you guys would like to talk about.
I love that. So how many years have you been doing this?
Well, I started doing this when I was only probably 5. I was one of those weird little kids who knew what he wanted to do when he was by the time I was 8, I knew I wanted to just be an actor for the rest of my life. And like I said, I've been one of the very, very fortunate few of us who got to do that, and I've gotten to do the job that I always wanted since then. So that was I guess 1986 was my first sort of professional year.
1986. Wow. So
right.
what was your first ever voice acting project then?
Well, when I was I guess when I was around that age, there was this. I'm gonna name drop. I'm gonna drop a couple names, but I think probably your Your audience will know who these people are when I mention them. So when I was like maybe 8 or 9 or 10 years old, I'd already done some film and TV and some theater. And my very first job actually was in an opera when I was only 5. And I got hired by this wonderful casting director out of LA named Marcia Goodman, who sort of like gave me my kickstart into animation, into voiceover. And they were remaking this old series, this old cartoon from the 60s called Beanie and Cecil. And it was that old one where like with the little kid with like the beanie hat with the little like propeller on the top, and his best friend Cecil, who was like a sea monster. So they did this sort of reboot of that cartoon, and I got cast as the voice of Beanie, of the little kid. And it was me and Maurice LaMarche and Billy West. And Maurice and Billy have gone on to, they were already like giants in the industry, but they've gone on to like, you know, like Maurice has won like 2 Emmys, Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs, Inspector Gadget, all this like massive stuff. So that's sort of where I like started. I'm like 10 years old. And I got to be in a room with like 2 of the greatest voiceover performers in North America.
You was with some legends,
right?
What?
I know, and I didn't know who they were. Like I was just a kid, you know. I was like, this is fun, and these guys seem kind of zany and fun to hang around with. I got cast actually around that time. I got cast in like a TV, like a movie for TV, with Katharine Hepburn, who is like a film legend. And it was sort of the same thing. Like my mom and dad, who were not part of the industry, like they didn't sort of push me into whatever. It was something that I always wanted to do. But my mom and dad knew who she was, and they were like freaking out. And I was like, I don't know, I'm 10. Like she's just this old lady. Of course, she was amazing. She was, you know, really a force. So I had a few experiences like that as a kid, where I got to, you know, be in the same room and work with some amazing people. And I think that helped me a lot to kind of, you know, set me on my way and see what was possible and what you could do with this career.
I love that. So till this day, when you go to conventions and you meet up with these legend voice actors, you tell them, "Hey, I was that little kid that did this to you when we were in the studio."
Well, Maurice and I are still friends, and Marcia and I are still friends. and my mom and dad are friends with her and her husband, who's this wonderful guy. Yeah, we've stayed in touch. But yeah, Maurice LaMarche is actually also Canadian. He grew up in Montreal. So we sort of had a connection to start with, but yeah, him and I are still friends, and he is just as wonderful as he was when I first met him.
I love that, and I love these type of stories. I was looking at your like history of like voice acting. You are in a lot of movies, and not only just like voice acting, but actual movies and shows. Can you tell me about the experience of one of those shows, and what was your favorite show to be part of?
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky. I've gotten to do a lot of different stuff. You know, I was in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. And I met, I remember when I auditioned for that, I fibbed a little. I told a little white lie.
Oh, can you tell us? It was a secret.
Because they wanted, you know, there was a lot of like British characters, right? In those movies. A lot of bad guys, you know, were British, and my family is British. My mom and dad were both born and raised in England, I grew up in Canada, but they wanted to see like British actors only, right? And like, right, me and my team were like, well, he's British, he's British-ish. But I knew I could go in and I could do that because that's not an accent that I even hear as an accent. You know, I can just do that. And, you know, over many years of getting to do lots of animation and voiceover, you learn how to, you know, kind of do these things. And I'd been in, you know, I'd done The Tudors on Showtime, which was also a British character. Like I knew I could do it. So I kind of like, my agent called me and he was like, So, they want British actors only. So just go and like be British. And I was like, yeah, of course, that's easy. I can do that. And he was like, no. When you go in, be British. So I was like, okay, it feels like a bit of a stretch, but and it's not like I went and I like totally played it up, but I had a little bit of a sort of a British lilt. Anyway, cut to, I'm on set in like Palmdale, California, which is like close to LA. And they built like the biggest film set I've ever seen in my life. They built this whole like sort of like outside of like a castle out of like train cars. They had stacked like 200 train cars on top of each other, like out in the desert. It was spectacular. I was like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing set that they built, very expensive. And I meet the director, Gore Verbinski, for the first time, and we're sort of walking the set and we're just chatting, and he's like, are you British? Aren't you British? And I was like, whoops, because I'm not going to pretend, while we're going to, I'll do it and he's like, oh, I thought you were. And I was like, well, I am British. My family's British. I have a British passport, but I actually grew up in Canada. And he was like, so the accent? And I was like, yeah, that's just a thing I can do.
So basically you made that fake it to make it kind of thing, and that
right?
kind of scenario.
A little.
Okay.
But it worked out in the end, because I was like, yeah, I can turn it on and turn it off. And he was like, that's very good. I'm very impressed. And I said, I'll do anything for independent film.
I love that.
When when you don't have a lot of money to spend, we all have to make concessions. And he laughed, because of course that was like a $200 million movie.
Oh my goodness. Just to let you know, we are live on Twitch and there are questions here being asked. Play_PD Pedro, who is a game developer and that I'm actually interviewing tomorrow, has a question. Their question is, have you ever voiced video games? If so, what kind of voice acting genre do you like to do best? Film, video games, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I did stuff for Horizon Forbidden West most recently. I'm actually like I've done this one character for actually a number of different games, but I'm the voice of DJ Atomica, and DJ Atomica is the guy who talks to you over the radio in SSX, in the SSX snowboarding games, and also in Burnout Paradise. So a lot of people know DJ Atomica from Burnout Paradise, because he's the guy who's constantly in your ear going, if you'd like to, make a pit stop at blah, 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 or, something's going down at the corner of blah, blah, blah. And he's literally talks to you for the entire game. And I get wonderful fan mail every once in a while where they say, if you weren't good, I would have been really annoyed, because all I got to do is listen to you for the whole game, man. But thank goodness it all worked out, because they liked it. So I have done a bunch of different video games. I have to be honest. I love every part of my job. I love everything about I love everything about acting. It's my first love, and it's my greatest passion. It's hard to kind of rank like one thing over the other. Honestly, it's kind of like, it's sort of a Sophie's choice in a way. You don't want to say like, well, this is better than that. But I will say, I really do love theater, and I'll tell you why. Usually, you get such great material, you get such great scripts in theater. You have people who sit there and they write a play for like 10 years or something, before they ever get published. And so the material is often so rich and so full of like humanity and depth and compassion. So I'm always a little bit partial to theater, because that's kind of where I started too.
Wow, you're just like basically just like putting so much inspiration, and just everything you're telling me is just so inspiring, especially the fact that you were in a Disney movie, you were in like video games that I've heard of. I haven't played SSX for a long time, and now I think I'm gonna put that game on later and probably give it a try just to hear your voice.
Yeah, you'll hear a lot of my voice in SSX, that's for sure.
So funny. I noticed you were also in the Barbie movies. I love the Barbie movies. It's my guilty pleasure. Did you regret being part of the Barbie franchise, or did you enjoy it?
No, I didn't regret it. It was, I think I did 5 or 6 of those.
Yes, you did. You were in the Princess
Yeah,
and the
right.
Popper. You were in one of like the not really new ones, but the ones that came out like early 2000s.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah. No, they were. You know, we had a great cast, and Kelly Sheridan, who I worked with most on those, who played Barbie in most of those. She's wonderful, and we've known each other for many years, and she's done a ton of voiceover stuff over the years, tons of animation, and honestly, the whole cast on those was always so great. Those were recorded in Canada, in Vancouver, so there was like a community of people that probably a lot of your audience would know. Brian Drummond and Alessandro Giuliani and Brad Swale and all these just wonderful people. These are people that I've known a lot of them since for a long time, for many years. And it's always fun to work with your friends.
in the top of the head, in your top of your head, from video games, movies, anime, which anime, which movie, and which video game would you want to hear your voice in 2024?
Oh goodness,
I know.
That's a good question. Which I mean, I'll be honest. People are always asking, like, are you when are you going to voice Hero again? When are you going to get to do Hero again? Or when are you going to get to do Terry Bogard again? Those are, I mean, that would be a lot of fun. I'd be really into that. I'll be honest. Gundam was a while ago. That was that's been a minute since we recorded those. So I don't know. Sometimes I sort of joke, like, maybe I'd have to be like Hero's dad at this point. I just come in and be like, or maybe I'm like old Hero and he's had like Hero Junior, and I can be like, okay, here's what I learned from let me learn from my mistakes. I wasn't the happiest of dudes. Like, find some lightness in your life. Hero was not exactly always the happiest dude on the block, but so I mean, that would be fun. As far as film and TV, those things are so outside of our control most of the time as actors. Even when you've had a lot of success, you don't always get to pick and choose what you get to do. But I mean, man, if they ever made like a movie version of Hamlet, I'd be all over that. I love that play. I just think it has so much to say about humanity and hypocrisy and like the lack of like empathy and ethics in like in politics and in business and in how people relate with each other. It's got so much good stuff to say in it, and I mean, that is really it's certainly one of the greatest characters ever written in English theater, that's for sure. And it just really inspires me more than anything else.
So you heard it here. Mark wants a Gundam spin-off, and of course, video game. Which one do you hear in 2024?
Well, it may be that there is a game that I'm in that's going to come out in 2024, but I can't tell you anything about it because that's how things are these days. I have
NDA.
It's a thing, but I have actually there's a big project that I'm just finishing actually with Amazon that has that the game is a part of the sort of the whole property of the franchise. So that you'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut because I do side things with Amazon, and I send NDAs too. All right, we have a question from the chat. The question is, Mark, any insight on why Vancouver is such a voice-over acting capital in North America? What makes it so amazing for media projects?
I think in part it was a little bit lucky, and in part it's because a whole lot of great actors worked really hard and got really good. Lucky because Vancouver is, they call Vancouver like Hollywood North, because it's so close, the proximity in proximity to LA, it's easy for productions to shoot there. So there's been a lot of film and TV that's been made there over the years. And then in terms of voiceover, it was a little bit sort of the same type of situation. There were projects that would come up. There's things that are obviously that are made in Canada, by Canada as well, but a lot of American productions that would come up and want to record in Vancouver, and so there was opportunity, and that opportunity was sort of taken up by myself and the Brian Drummonds and the David Kays and the Ian Corlitts and the and now like a whole other generations of voiceover performers who are just work really hard and got really good. When like the Ocean Group was recording some of that anime stuff back when I was doing like Gundam Wing and projects like that, like I say, like kind of lucky because they're like, we're gonna record this anime project. It's in space, and there's these robots and they fly around, and there's these 5 like pilots who are teenagers and they fly them around, and you're like, okay, that sounds cool. And then it turns out that it's Gundam Wing, and you find out later, if you're me, that Gundam has this incredible history and lore and what it means and represents in Japan. Like one day you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm actually in sort of like the Japanese version of Star Wars, more or less. It's this huge thing that has all this momentum, before you even ever get on board. So yeah, partly luck, and then partly Vancouver just has great actors who are really good at their jobs.
I have a question here. Oh, that question was from Little Geek 88. This is from Davy Jones 3391. Can you do an example of one of your voices from your previous projects?
Do an example of a voice from a previous project, like anything in particular?
Yeah. Just anything.
Any one of them?
Yeah, anything.
I mean, I let me put it to you this way. It'd be better if you suggested like one particular project, and if you don't, I'll kill you.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me do this? Okay, I could do it because they don't know.
Well, that was a quote. No, that was a direct quote. That's the line. That's the line from Gundam Wing that everyone always wants to hear. That's why I was making a joke about it, because some people have. Sometimes I'll be at like a convention, and I'll get asked to. And I, in all honesty, and I don't mind doing it, but in all honesty, sometimes I think like, why couldn't it have been like, I'll be back, or like, no soup for you, or something? For me, it has to be, I'll kill you. It's so dark. It's such a dark line. But that's kind of the Hiro Yui line that everybody always seems to remember.
Well, apparently they liked it. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Did you eat tacos since it's Tuesday?
I did not have a taco, even though it's Tuesday. No, I did not happen to have a taco today. No. I could. I mean, there's still time.
That's a bummer. I didn't have a taco either. I just had Japanese food. But here, I can show you a taco. Well, you can't see it, but there's a taco. There's the taco. Also, chat, if you're trying to use alerts and stuff, with interviews with voice actors that are taking their time out of their day, there's no alerts, so no distractions, and don't play with the commands. I will shut them off. Well, anyways, oh man,
I used to say that about my Gundam when people were in it. Don't play with the commands or I'll turn them off. You don't know how to fly this thing.
So since you voice act video games, and I always ask this to every voice actor that voice acts in video games, do you ever play a video game that your voice is featured in, or do you play video games that you love and enjoy and you wish where a voice was featured in?
Of course you play it. Everybody wants to play it. Everybody plays it once.
You'd be surprised.
You got to play it once. You know what? I don't. I mean, it's probably, you've heard like actors don't love watching their work because they feel, and it's, I don't mean to like diminish that. I felt that way, and I felt that way for a long time. Obviously, it's a thing. If you ever like go and like record your voice and then you listen to your voice and you're like, I sound like that. You get over it eventually because it's just it happens so much. But I do like to go back and watch my projects, whether it's a video game or a TV show or whatever. I like to watch it once. I like to go back at least once so I can see, okay, this is what I was trying to do. And then like, this is kind of how it actually ended up. And see how it's different, see how it's the same, and sort of give myself feedback. But after that, it just goes away, and I kind of never watch it.
I don't blame you. But as a streamer, we're hearing our voice through headphones, and then when we have to edit the video, and editing videos take hours, we're literally hearing the same thing over and over again. Is it the same process when it comes to recording in the studio for voice actors, when they're like, okay, we don't like that, can you do it over? Is it like that in the studio?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, more or less. Like we'll go until, you go until you feel like, and the director feels like you've got a take on each line that you like. But honestly, different people work different ways. Some people like to, do lots and lots of takes, try things, a million different ways. Other people, like to just go with their first impulse, and you like to get it done in the first 2 or 3 takes. I tend towards the latter. I tend to like, I've done my homework. I know what I'm coming in with. I have, and I can be flexible to listen to what I'm getting and what I'm hearing from the other actors. And then it sort of comes out kind of organically. And honestly, I find like the first 1 or 2 or 3 takes is like, that's usually probably my best one. Because I find like when you start to, and this is probably true with like any artistic pursuit, like writing or performing or whatever, I feel like once I get up in my head and I'm starting to like listen to myself and kind of, evaluate and kind of judge, and like, it gets into this whole, then it's like, it's so easy to find problems. Now I'm like, oh my God, it just wasn't this enough, it wasn't that enough, it wasn't that enough. And a lot of the times I find like, you know what, there was something like kind of just honest and real in those first few takes that like, once you start to overthink it, it's hard to get it back,
And I've checked previous interviews that you've done. You're into music as well, correct?
Yeah, I love music. I'm a singer. I taught myself to play the piano when I was only about 10 years old. I taught myself Beethoven. I've played piano my whole life. I love to play. I can't read a lick of music, but I love to play and I love to write. I've made I've recorded 2 albums. I've played some wonderful venues like all over LA and in New York and in Canada. Music is really one of my passions, and it's just something that I do really for the love of it, because I think it's important to have, the thing that you do for work, and that's not always the thing that you love to do, but like, the thing that kind of, pays your bills. And it's so good to have something that you just do for yourself, just something that's like an artistic outlet for you that you just do for you. And that's really what music's always been for me.
Okay, you can't make me a promise, but definitely whenever we have more time, I would love to hear you play piano for us one day.
You got it. And of course, you can always go, you can go onto YouTube. You can search Mark Hildreth on YouTube, and there's tons of stuff on there. I've posted a lot of live videos, a lot of studio recordings, a lot of like alternate takes and like different versions of all kinds of songs. I love to just, put that out there and see how people like it.
I love that. We have another question. Little Geek 88 again. I don't know if you asked this question, but as a well-known and successful actor from where you are now, where would you suggest starting for an aspiring voiceover actor?
That's a great question. It really depends. It depends on a number of things. I always say to people, like the first thing I always say to people when they're like, "Ooh, acting, that seems cool. I'd like to get into that." I usually say, okay, so if you love it, acting is a very difficult thing to make a career out of. It's not the easiest, like just going by the numbers, it's tough to like make a living as an actor. Most actors have to have, something on the side, either, you work in a restaurant or you work in some kind of job where there's enough flexibility to be able to do all the like on-call stuff that actors have to do, because auditions are always on call. You'll get, you'll have to submit yourself and put something on tape or record something, and it always sort of comes out of the blue. So you need to have a certain flexibility in your schedule to be able to do that. But I always say to people, look, are you the type of person who like would be happy doing this for free? Because if you are, then you're probably going into it for the right reasons. Because you're like, I just love this. This is my passion. This is what I'm meant to do. All kinds of people go into acting for all kinds of reasons, but not all of them are necessarily, sustainable. So that's the first thing I always say is like, just figure out like what you love. The best advice I got from my mom and dad, because I mentioned that they were not in the industry, they were not like TV parents or anything. They just supported, they were very supportive of me and what I wanted to do, and my siblings, and they all wanted to do different things. But they always said to me like, listen, as long as it makes you happy, do it, and we'll support you as much as we can. And if it ever stops making you happy, it's not really something you really love and you're not happy doing it, you can quit. You don't have to feel like, you're married to this thing for any reason. And so that's advice that I always give to people. If supposing that, the answer is yes to that, then depending on kind of where you're at, I'd say recording yourself, like just doing like a demo, they call it a demo, like a demonstration of like, what you can do. You can record yourself doing like a bunch of different kinds of voices. You can record yourself doing, the particular kind of voice that you think you're best at or that you like to do the most. But having like something that you can submit to, different things, like, there's different things online where you can take classes and learn how to do these things. Obviously, there's like people who can represent you, agencies and management companies, who can submit you for projects. There's all kinds of things you can submit yourself for online, in different capacities as a voiceover artist. But that's a good place to start, is like, take some of the things that you like or that you feel like you're good at and make a little recording and hone it and really refine it and make it so that you really feel like it represents you the best. Then if you can like get an agent and get somebody submitting you for projects, that's a great next step. As far as like classes, like there's tons out there. It's hard for me to exactly recommend, one over the other, but there's certainly people who teach this. As far as we used to say, it's a good idea to be like in LA or in a particular place where there's a lot of that type of work being made. I'm not sure if it's as important as it used to be. It probably still is in many ways, but post-COVID, where we're all kind of working remote and so many people are working from home, and so much of the world, at least in voiceover, can be done that way. It doesn't have to be done in person. It's fun if you can, but you can do this kind of thing from home. So you can set yourself up something in your house that makes you sound good. Make your little recording studio. And you can practice that yourself. You can find some scripts online, or you can listen to the stuff that's on TV or online and try to emulate that and try to develop your skill and how you work with a microphone. There's lots of the things to learn. But that's probably sort of where I'd start as a sort of a first step, as a first goal, is having some kind of a recording, like just some kind of, 2-3 minute MP3 that's like, yeah, I'm really good at this. And even that can take a while to sort of develop.
like a demo reel, correct? Is that what it is? Yeah,
demo reel, exactly.
Yeah. Someone asked, you probably have to do a lot of networking, am I right? Davy Jones 3391.
I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot of relationships that are, it's a relationships type of a job. And yeah, you get good at talking to a lot of different people, which is one of the great parts of your job as an actor. You get to run into all different kinds of people. You get to meet all different kinds of people, ideally. So yeah, networking is definitely a part of it. You want to try to find your tribe, so to speak. Find your community of like-minded people who are into what you're into. It's it's honestly, it's not so different. Most of us are nerds, really, like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's such a relief now because like there were times when I was younger where like being a nerd was like really not that was kind of a problem. You know what I mean? Like that was not cool. Now being a nerd is awesome. It's very liberating, I have to say.
It's so cool.
You want to find your other like voiceover nerds, and you find your other animation nerds, and find your other anime. You know what I mean? Like sort of find your people, and that's a good way to sort of start that networking process.
I love that, especially like conventions and then fan mail and all that good stuff. It's just the best way to interact. I want to go back to a statement that you said. You said if you love it, you would do it for free. So that's technically, say for example, I'm a streamer, but I have all this expensive equipment and I'm doing this for free. Well, I used to do it for free, not really. But is that like the same way compared to being an actor and voice acting, if you think about it, or it was completely different?
I'll tell you, like the spirit in which I usually, in which I mean that, and the spirit in which I try to share that with people. It's really about, like I mentioned, a lot of people are attracted to going into acting for a lot of different reasons. And usually what I'm trying to dispel by saying that is like, if you're like, for example, if you're going into acting because like you want to get really famous and you feel like then you'll like feel good, it doesn't work. And I've seen it from a lot of different angles. That is to say, people who are not famous all the way up to like people who are like ridiculously famous. And all I'm trying to say is like, it's not the secret of happiness. It's not the secret to having a fulfilling life. And so like, if you're going into acting because you just want to like, get famous and get rich, I can guarantee like the chances of you really being happy and really having a fulfilling career with that as your major like motivation is not very good. So usually when I say like, if you would do this for free and you would do it anyway because you love it that much, you're going into it for very different reasons, And then if you end up like, having success and maybe making some money or maybe even making a living, it's almost like a bonus because you're like, I'm doing the thing that I love. And it brings a whole different like heart and soul and a fullness of your personhood, of your personality to what you do. On the other hand, if it's not really something you love, but you're just in it for the, just in it for the money, kid, like Han Solo, it doesn't really end up working out, so much in your favor. I'm not saying that you should don't get paid and like avoid making money. Like try to make money. That's a good idea. I'd wish everybody the best. I would want everybody to have success, financial success at the thing that they love. It's just that in an artistic pursuit, I think it's more important. Personally, I think it's more important that like your love of that particular artistic pursuit trumps the desire for like fame and fortune, because then if it comes, it's almost like it's like the cherry on the sundae.
I understand. Time is flying. I only have like 8 minutes with you left.
Yeah, we've covered lots.
We did, and this was so fun, and I'm so glad that I reached out to you and you gave me this time. So chat, if you have 2 more questions, I'll take 2 more questions from you. Otherwise, I'll just let Mark Hildreth just talk about himself for the next 8 minutes. It's fun when you get paid. It is fun when you get paid, but it's also fun when you have the passion and people checking out your content just to check out your uniqueness. Because thank you for pinning his social medias. Make sure go follow Mark Hildreth on Instagram and Twitter, aka X. I appreciate that. Go check it out. Do you keep souvenirs from projects? Little Geek Idiot asks.
Oh my gosh, I have stuff that goes back a long way now, to be honest with you. I have like there's a little like I have those like little plastic storage containers, those bins of in my basement that has some pretty cool stuff in it. But I don't keep everything. I have like a few sort of keepsakes, a few mementos. Every once in a while I'll go to a convention and someone like will pull out like some fantastic like Gundam Wing merch from like way back, like, or something that is really hard to find. And it's so cool to see them because there's a lot out there, So when you see one that's really unusual or hard to get your hands on, those are fun. And I have, one or two of those types of things. I'm not a pack rat, so like I don't keep a ton of stuff. Actors, we tend to have to kind of move around a lot, because you don't really necessarily know. We're a little bit like athletes that way, we're having to, move here and move there, and then we get traded to another team, and now we got to move to somewhere else. So you don't end up having like a whole lot of stuff to kind of drag around with you. But I do have one or two things that were, that were meaningful to me that I keep, I keep sort of set aside for, pull out once in a while and take a look at them.
I love that, especially the fact when like, your beloved fans come over to your like table and be like, sign this for me, or take a picture with you. Like, isn't that so inspiring? If you did not become an actor, like voice actor or anything in the entertainment industry, what would you have seen yourself as?
It's hard to say. I mean, especially because I like I say, I got to start so young. I didn't really consider a whole lot of other things. And I was fortunate enough to get to do the thing that I loved since I was only little. But my dad was a teacher. My dad was a public school teacher.
That's so lovely.
Right. And my mom, an artist, a painter, actually. So if it wasn't anything in the performing arts, I probably still would have done something in the arts. But I always feel like teaching there's a part of our job that is a teaching part. And whether you mean to be teaching something or whether you don't mean to be, you kind of are either way. I always feel like when I go see a movie, like the movie's teaching us something, you know what I mean? And it's not always teaching us the best thing, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, sometimes it's teaching you like violence is good, and you're like, okay, but or maybe they've really thought about it and really considered like, what are we saying with this film? And then sometimes you go see films and you're like, oh my gosh, like I learned more about like what it means to be human from that movie than like, than almost anything else I've ever experienced in my life. And so probably I've always looked at my career with that lens a little bit. So if I had never been able to go into anything that had to do with performing, maybe I'd be doing some form of teaching somewhere, somehow.
I love that. Okay, so you have to go in 3 minutes. So what is one thing that you want to leave everyone with as advice or like a shout out, anything that you want to say to us?
Well, one thing probably that I should throw out there is I have, and I think maybe we talked about this when we met each other at J1Con recently. Down there in Atlantic City. I've been, it's been a number of years since I've appeared at any conventions. I've just been doing other things and busy with other parts of my career. But I recently just started appearing at some, and there will be some more. I don't have specifics to announce like just at the moment. But there will definitely be more in 2024. So I'll announce those. I'll mention them on all the socials and all that. But I'm really looking forward to reconnecting with everybody who loves, especially the anime stuff. But I've done a lot of different sci-fi, and I've done, as you said, like a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, you did.
So I'm really stoked to sort of get back on the circuit and be able to sort of meet everybody and connect with all the fans again. So just know that's going to be happening. That'll be a little bit different than the last like 15 or so years when I hadn't been to almost any conventions. So hopefully, if I happen to end up in one of the cities where some of the folks that are listening right now live at, we might be able to meet in person, and maybe I can, sign an autograph or at least just say a hello.
Absolutely. And then I have you on Instagram, so whenever you post it, I share it in my story because I love having voice actors to be on the spotlight, and hopefully I can have you again for our longer segments, because the long segments, like I said, are totally just a different vibe, and it's just laid back and chill.
Cool. I love it.
Well, thank you so much for taking your time chat with us. Everyone, this video will be available in the next 24 hours. It will be in the highlight section on Twitch, and in 2 weeks will be uploaded on YouTube.
That's awesome. Hey, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh yeah.
And thank you to everybody for who is tuning in.
Thank you, everybody. Bye. I'm going to end, and then we're going to start over with the sponsor stream. Be here tomorrow. We're going to be interviewing an indie game developer. You can wave at them. They see you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.